Hey everybody, I'm Evan.
And I'm Grayson.
And here we are back with this series on YouTube that we haven't been to in a couple of minutes, right?
Yeah.
So today we're going to be doing our M's, our top 3 M games. And this marks the halfway point of this series. And it only took us a year to get halfway. So, I guess we're just going to get right to it. No more delays. And what do you think, Grayson? Who should go first?
Well, you as always.
All right, me as always. Okay, so my number 3. I changed my number 3 from when I originally made this list a year ago. Originally, I was going to mark Museum, but we have not played Museum in the past year.
That is true.
I know we're waiting on some Kickstarter stuff, but yeah. So I took that off the list, and instead I added Monstrosity.
Yeah, we have been having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, Monstrosity is a game we have been playing quite a bit lately.
Yes.
And it's a party game where one person is like a witness, and they have 20 seconds to look at this strange-looking monster. And they are weird-looking. And then after that 20 seconds, they have 2 minutes to describe it to everyone else, and they without looking at it again. So
it's really hard.
So it is crazy hard. It's crazy hard to remember what the monster looked like, and it's crazy hard to remember to draw it based on like the unreliable descriptions that the other person is giving you.
Sometimes they're just weird.
Well, they're always weird.
Well, like, sometimes they're just insanely hard to describe.
Yeah, but honestly, that's what makes it fun, because everybody comes up with something really strange based on what's being described. So,
My favorite one so far has been the teddy bear with the ducky blasters.
Yeah, so weird. We have, there's a cute expansion and a robot expansion, so we just kind of shuffled them all together.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3, Monstrosity.
My number 3 is Meeple Circus.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so Meeple Circus is basically just like a stacking game where you'll get certain things, like you draft certain tiles, and then there's
and they have the performers on the tiles. Yep.
And there's these achievements that you need to get, which give you the points. So maybe it's this oak plank sitting on top of a dude, something super weird.
Yeah, based on the performers and the materials that you have to build your show with, right?
Basically, yeah. And eventually, I'm pretty sure. Eventually you get special goals.
Right. Okay. So back up. Okay. There's 3 rounds. The first 2 rounds, everybody's building their show all at once, and then once the music stops, because there's an app that has music on it.
Yep.
You take your hands up and you score. But the 3rd round, is the performance round. So you have to do it while everybody's watching, and there's weird conditions that you have to do. Right. Sometimes when there's a cheer, you have to stand up and clap, or sometimes you only have to use one hand, right?
Yeah.
But this is while everybody's watching, so you're super nervous trying to stack these little meeples and horses and elephants and beams and barrels and.
Let me tell you one of the worst one of those. Except you cannot use your thumb, and you have to do it on your non-dominant hand.
Yeah, just like the 4 fingers on your non-dominant hand. So yeah,
it's worth a ton of points though, because the harder it is, the more points you get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that game is super fun. I have a great time with that game. It is not on my list, but it's a really strong runner-up for sure, because it's just a silly, fun game.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, so cool. Good pick, Grayson. All right, my number 2 is probably my favorite solitaire game of all time, and that's Mr. Cabbage Head's Garden. Which it's a cool game where you're building out a grid. There's a grid that you're putting vegetables into to make this garden. So every turn, you flip over so many cards and you pick one to place in the garden.
I only know a bit about this, but I do know something of neighbors and stuff.
Yeah, right. So then the cards you don't pick trigger you to pull from a bag these neighbor tokens where they start snooping into your garden, because you have super snoopy neighbors, right? Who are what you doing over there? They're peeking over the fence. So as those tokens build up through the rounds, it'll kind of give you a hint of which neighbor is gonna come over and mess with your garden when you take a break. So after you do that, you look at the nosy neighbor, the snoopy neighbor, and it'll say to remove a certain vegetable or whatever, right? So they mess with your garden, and then there'll be there's a bunch of different scoring goals, and sometimes those scoring goals overlap, so you have to kind of like figure out which ones you're going to go for to try to get the most points. And sometimes if you get lucky, you can kind of play the odds where like, because if there's a tie with the neighbors, none of them will show up.
Yeah.
So like, if you leave behind a card that's only going to draw maybe one from a bag, and that one might create a tie if it's the right one pulled, sometimes you can get away with having no neighbors mess with you. And then you can score bigger points that way because they're not stealing your carrots or your onions or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, the art is super weird. Like they're like these disturbing like vegetable people, right? So like they're vegetable people planting vegetables in the garden, right? You know, I guess the art is based on like old seed packets like of art that actually existed. But yeah, I love this game. It plays out over 3 rounds, and hopefully no neighbors mess with you. Just a quick solitaire game where you're trying to get the most points. Yeah, Mr. Cabbage's Garden. That's my number 2.
My number 2 is Megaland.
Oh, okay.
Which is a press your luck game.
Yep.
So where basically what you do at the start is you go out and you go through and you press your luck on the rounds, and you get resources. You get resources every round.
Right. So they say it's like a video game, right, where you're running through the level, right? And you can either stay in the level or leave.
Bail out, basically. And then, and when you complete the level, you get a resource.
Yeah, but hold on. So in the levels, every time you're flipping a card, right? And sometimes a card is a hazard that damages you. And you can only take so much damage.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it gives you extra resources, or gives or whatever, something like that, right? Or nothing, right? But you always get a resource every time.
Yes.
But sometimes you get bonus.
There is a treasure chest where you get 1 extra.
Yeah, right.
But there is sometimes in the round there is jump tokens where you can jump over monsters.
Yeah.
Except there's like bats.
It's hard, so you jump right into the bat.
Yep.
It's hard. Yeah, that's hard to do. Right. So then when you come back from the level,
you have the resources, and then you spend it on buildings.
Right.
Which gets you, which will get you money, income, or like extra things to do with your resources.
Yeah, right.
And with every building, you get a little storage hold where you can save a resource from the earlier round.
Right. Right.
And the conditions to get those things are always different. Sometimes you have to get like every single different resource.
Right.
Or like one type of resource.
And also you can spend those resources to get more health too.
Yep.
That you can try to stay in the level longer. Yeah, it's a pretty simple game, right?
But it's pretty fun.
But it is pretty fun, yeah. And I think it works with just about any age group. You know, if there's an adult and younger kids, just basically, are you staying in or you keep going?
Because that's.
And then you got to weigh that time when you're like, no, I'm pulling out. And then it's always super like disappointing when like you pull out and everybody else keeps getting more stuff.
Yeah, and like it's like 3 blanks and the treasure chest.
But yeah, and the other thing is then I just stay in too long and I die and I don't get anything. So that's usually what happens.
Me too.
All right. Yeah, good pick, Grayson, for your number 2. Yeah? 2. All right. Well, my number 1 game that starts with M is Metro X. It's a really simple roll and write. I've only ever played the Japanese edition, not the American one. It's pretty similar, but I like the graphic design on the Japanese one better. Anyway, so it's a flip and write. So every turn, so you have a sheet, right, where it's like the subway, like a different subway map in Japan. Yeah. And basically you're just trying to connect these lines from start to finish, and they intersect all over the place. Yeah. And you can never skip one. So when you flip a number, you have to fill in like 2 spaces or 5 spaces. But if it hits another line, then it stops. So you have to like maximize your planning on these numbers.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can just like you have a 5 and you have nowhere to put it, and you end up only using 2 of it. And the lines are long, right? So so most of them you can't even get all the way through without using numbers from another line. So it's a gigantic puzzle, of like an efficiency puzzle.
Yeah, I really was confused about it when I played it.
It seems confusing, but I don't know. I've played it a ton of times, so it makes sense. And sometimes you do get better at it, I think, of knowing where to put different numbers.
I won the first time, but I think I messed up the rules.
Oh, so you cheated the first time you played.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I didn't have a full understanding of the rules, so.
Well, that's okay. But yeah, that's a super fun game, Metro X. Like I said, it's super simple. It plays it's not simple to play. I think it's simple to learn how to play.
So,
But yeah, that's my number one. So
my
Metro
number
X.
one, I think.
I have no idea what your number one is.
If
What could it
anyone
possibly
has
be?
seen a lot of like any favorite Game Friday things,
No, what's that?
you know,
No, go ahead.
there are a lot of other things. I think they might know what my number one for this one is.
Okay, just say it.
Monte Carlo Deluxe.
Yeah, the deluxe one.
Because it's just my favorite game of all
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Probably.
Well, it's definitely going to be the top of this list then, right?
I mean,
All
it's impossible not to, right?
Well, what's a brief description of what you do in Monte Carlo?
Basically, you roll a die, you can get some money, you spend the money to get buildings, which then makes it so that when you roll the die, then you can get more money off of die faces.
Right,
basically.
right. So like, yeah, you start out with just like a 1 and a 2. Is that what it is?
A one on everybody's turn and a 2 and 3 on your turn.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So then you want to try to get the spectrum of numbers, so that you get stuff on other people's turns, or you just get more on your turns, right?
Or you steal these from people's.
Yeah, that happens too sometimes.
That can happen a lot. when your brother gets three French restaurants and then
you roll in the number and you owe him like
15 coins.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, that happens though.
But yeah, I know that game is super fun, and
Yeah.
it's like a classic, right? And I think a lot of games have come out after that are kind of replicated, but
Yeah.
like I gotta tell you what, like I still like that the best too. So. And with the deluxe version, it has both of the expansions, and I think we have a couple of promos in it.
Yeah, we do.
I don't think you can actually buy the deluxe version anymore because the publishers have changed or whatever.
Yeah,
but-
well, you can't buy the deluxe version, but yeah, but you can. I'm pretty sure there was a new version that had everything in it.
I think so. Well, I think so, but I think the deluxe still has a couple of promos that are not in the new version.
But the deluxe version is you can't find it anywhere. Like you probably might be able to find it somewhere, but like it's probably gonna.
No,
be really
like whatever is out
Yeah.
right now is. I mean, it's basically the same. So.
But there is a few differences, and also the deluxe is in a tin.
Yeah, and plus we have Machikoro 2 and Machikoro Legacy, and
Yeah.
I think you like all those too. So.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think the deluxe probably is still the best one.
Yeah.
So yeah, good pick, and not a surprise at all. All right. Anything else?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that wraps up our M's here.
Yeah.
I'll of course put the links down below if you want to check out those games on Board Game Geek. And thanks for watching, and thanks for sticking with us this past year.
Yeah.
It's been a great year, I think. We put out a lot of other types of videos, and I feel like we're actually getting better at doing this.
Yeah.
So I mean, and we're still having a great time. So and it's awesome that everybody watches. That does, because I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate the likes and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's been a great year, and we'll look forward to doing that second half of the alphabet soon.
Yep. And we'll see you next time.
All right, bye everybody.
Here's the O out of the X, and then here's an O. What am I doing?